Truth does not cease to exist just because it is ignored. In 1914, the great inventor Thomas Edison suffered a devastating blow. His entire laboratory was completely destroyed, and years of his work were lost. Newspapers described the situation as the worst thing that had ever happened in Edison's life. But that was a lie. Edison did not view the situation like everyone else. Instead, the inventor saw it as a brilliant opportunity to rebuild and reevaluate a large part of his current work. It was reported that soon after the fire, Edison said, "Thank God, all our mistakes burned. Now we can start fresh." And that's exactly what he did, together with his team. Think about how this relates to your own life. How many times have you heard it's the end when it's actually just the beginning? How many times have you given up on your secret hopes? Today, I urge you to emulate those students we've helped over the past decade and challenge the lies you've been feeding yourself for many years. And let's start with the 5 most common deceptions. 1. You must make the right choice from the beginning and never turn away from it. The idea that you have to make the right choice from the very beginning is deeply ingrained in our society's education system. We send our children to university when they're 17 or 18, and yet we tell them to choose a path that will make them happy for the next 40 years. I remember thinking to myself, what if my choice turns out to be wrong? And it did, more than once. Through years of failures and difficulties, I have learned from personal experience that you can change your life's path at any moment when you desire to do so. Yes, you can always start afresh, and it can often be wonderful. Of course, it's not easy, but no one devotes their entire life to a career they naively chose as teenagers. And no one clings to something that doesn't suit them. The truth is, you can't win at chess by only making forward moves. Sometimes, to put yourself in a better position, you have to backtrack. And it's a beautiful metaphor for life. There are 3 little words that can free you from your past mistakes and regrets. Those words are, do it now. So, what should you do now? Anything. Something small. As long as you stop sitting in your chair, you will be tied to a destiny that you don't consider your own. If you're stuck somewhere, start over. Try something different. Stand up and do something. Try to focus a little less on the future and a little more on what you can do now, something that will benefit you regardless. Read. Write. Learn and practice useful skills. Test your abilities and ideas. Be entrepreneurial and engage with real events. Cultivate healthy relationships. These efforts will help you in any case, regardless of what opportunities the future presents. In conclusion, when life doesn't go as planned, take a deep breath and remember that life is rich in unpredictability. Sometimes, you simply have to accept the fact that circumstances will never be the same as before and that the end of one thing is always the beginning of another. 2. Discomfort is undesirable. Discomfort is a form of pain, but it is not deep pain, rather a slight inconvenience. It is the feeling you get when you step outside of your comfort zone. In the minds of many people, for example, the idea has taken hold that physical exercise is uncomfortable, so they avoid it. Consuming spinach and lettuce also brings discomfort. In reality, we must understand that most forms of discomfort actually help us become stronger and smarter. However, many of us were raised by very loving parents who tried to make our childhood as comfortable as possible. As a result, we grew up with a subconscious sense that discomfort is not necessary in our lives, and we constantly avoid it. As a result, we get stuck in an exhausting cycle. Let's take diets and physical exercise as an example. First of all, because healthy food and exercise bring us discomfort, we compromise our health. Instead of exercising, we choose comfortable food and mindless television shows. But poor health also causes discomfort, so we try to distract ourselves from thoughts about our unhealthy bodies. To accomplish this, we eat even more unhealthy food and engage in even more unhealthy forms of entertainment. We go shopping to buy things we don't really want or need. And our discomfort only grows. It is astonishing, but the simple act of daily embracing a small dose of discomfort can solve most of our problems and make us much happier, healthier, and stronger in the long run. To tell the truth, there is not a single person in the world who can endure all the blows that life presents without complaint. We are not like that. We get upset, feel sad, stumble, and sometimes fall. Because that is a part of life, and that too is discomfort. We experience it and over time learn to adapt to it. It is what ultimately shapes our character. If you find yourself in isolation and unable to find a way out of the darkness, remember that it is similar to the cocoon where the caterpillar grows its wings. 3. Grief is a burden that devastates us over time. You may have heard that prolonged sadness undermines health. I say this because I was taught this when I was a teenager. A close friend of mine died in a car accident. At first, everyone sympathized with my tears, but as weeks and months passed, I increasingly told myself that it was time to forget. I remember someone telling me, tears won't help in this case. But that is not true. I needed to cry. Tears slowly watered the seeds of my recovery. And I healed, becoming much stronger, kinder, and wiser than ever before. 10 years later, life presented me with this lesson twice more. First when Angel and I experienced the death of her older brother Todd by suicide, and then again when our shared best friend Josh died of asthma just a month later. Through the grief of losing loved ones, I received the gift of awareness. The awareness that each of us will lose someone we love, and that this reality is a necessity. As humans, we often encounter grief, and it helps us remain human. For example, Angel once told me, "My brother will die again and again throughout my remaining life. But it's okay. It brings me closer to him." In this way, Angel reminded me that grief does not pass without a trace. Step by step, sigh by sigh, it becomes a part of us. And it becomes a healthy part of us. It's similar to a broken ankle that always hurts when you dance, but you keep on dancing, albeit with a slight limp. 4. Everything we experience in life personally is reality. In our youth, we often doubt the stories and rumors we hear from others, but we always believe what we personally see, hear, or touch. In other words, if we see it with our own eyes, hear it with our own ears, or touch it with our own hands, then it is an absolute truth. But although this assumption may seem logical, it is not always the case. All people have their internal dialogues, their own thoughts, and this greatly influences how we interpret real-life events. We subconsciously view things according to our internal feelings, which means that what we see, hear, or feel is not always the same as what exists in reality. This is one of the main reasons why several different people can perceive the same event completely differently. Each of us applies our unique history, our internal dialogue, to the shared perspective, and this changes our perceptions, so each of us has a slightly different understanding of what just happened. And sometimes this slight difference makes all the difference in the world. Perspective is everything. In a sense, the stories we tell ourselves narrow our perspective. When we describe an event, we speak of what we personally witnessed. This phenomenon reminds me of an old fable in which a group of blind men decided to touch an elephant to understand what it looked like. Each of them touched different parts: a leg, a trunk, a body, or a tusk. When they later described the elephant, their stories were completely different. The same thing happens with us. Someone may believe their heart is completely broken. Some of us have lost our parents, siblings, or children due to accidents or illness. Someone has experienced infidelity. Some of us have been fired from our jobs. Some have faced discrimination due to gender or race. And when we encounter a new event that triggers painful memories, we interpret it according to our past negative experiences, narrowing our perspective. Let this be a wake-up call for you. The next time you feel an emotional struggle within yourself, ask yourself, how would I describe this event? Can I be absolutely certain that my story is true? How do I feel when I tell this story? Is there any other way to tell this story? Give yourself the opportunity to broaden your view, reflect more attentively. And don't hold on to a predetermined answer about what was right or wrong. 5. It is difficult to part with harmful habits. For most of us, excluding those dealing with clinical depression, changing our habits is a simple process. People who claim otherwise are usually just looking for excuses. They always want the task to become 100% easier, regardless of how easy it already is. It is always easier to do nothing than to do something. It is always easier to complain rather than take action. Sometimes it is unpleasant, but it is worth doing. Remember that changing habits is just a matter of desire. Just remember your actions and replace one small action with another. Why do you do what you do? The collective answer to this question is simple. Just like most other people, you don't know how to cope with stress and boredom in a healthy and effective way. Yes, most of your harmful habits are formed as a way to cope with stress and boredom. You escape from reality instead of embracing it. And these habits were not formed in an instant, so they will not go away instantly. You acquired them through repeated actions, and the only way to change them is through repetition. Make small, simple, gradual shifts. To start, let's look at 5 extremely common harmful habits. Mindless time wasting. Unhealthy eating. Watching TV shows or playing video games for hours a day. Constant shopping for things you don't need. Overall passivity and lack of physical exercise. And here are some new habits that you can use to gradually replace them. Take control of the situation. Start with small baby steps that don't require much effort from you. Start consuming healthy food that you genuinely enjoy. Spend more time playing with family members or friends. When you're bored, dance, play a musical instrument, read, write, or engage in activities that bring you joy. Take walks, go for a run, hike, bike, or swim. Then, once your brain gets used to the idea that you're ready for changes in your life, simply follow these simple steps. 1. Choose one new habit and start practicing it little by little, just 5 minutes a day. 2. Initiate your social accountability through platforms like Facebook, Instagram, etc. Share the small changes you're making, and then ask someone to regularly check on you, preferably daily, to ensure you're on the right track. 3. Identify key moments for yourself. For example, the moment you enter your home after work, and then perform your new habit every time that moment occurs. 4. Appreciate your new habit. Track the small pieces of progress that arise. For example, simply put a check mark on the calendar every time you complete your activities. Build a visual chain and make sure it doesn't break. 5. Once you no longer feel discomfort from your 5 minutes a day, increase the time. First to 7 minutes a day, then to 10 minutes, and so on. In reality, that's all that is required of you, at least at a basic level. So try not to waste your time and energy resisting changes in your life. Instead, invest your time and energy into starting to acquire a new habit, one action a day, one small step at a time. Let's go back to what we started this article with. Let's ask these questions again. How many times have you heard it's the end when, in fact, it was the beginning? How many times have you given up on your secret hopes? How many times in your younger years did you hear lies from people that Edison would call bluffs in his difficult days? Take a moment to think about. Remind yourself that the truth does not cease to exist just because it is ignored. When the truth is ignored, consciously or subconsciously, it only complicates your life. And there is absolutely no reason to do that. There is no reason to burden yourself with old lies and half-truths. Face the truth, speak the truth, and live by the truth. It is incredibly important, always.